what you're experiencing here. Obviously, first of all, for those of you that are on computers, in the top right of your screen, it will either say speaker view or gallery view. For those of you, I'm going to take this to a novice level, so pardon if you already know this stuff. The speaker view will change who gets to be the big picture based on who's talking. The gallery view will switch to where you get to see everybody in the conference, at least until we get to 25, in which case it goes to a second and third and fourth page. And then you can, if we go above that today, which we might not, I'll show you how you can toggle to the second part of the screen. But basically, about midway up the screen on the right and left, two little arrows will show up. And you basically toggle back and forth between pages of video once you get above 25 on that. So, secondly is the chat function. To the right, or first of all, if at the bottom of the screen where it says participants 19, if you'll click on that, it'll shoot a menu out that shows everybody that's on the conference. And you can individually send a message to somebody by simply double clicking on their name. Or you can also send a message to everybody, okay? And if someone sends a message to you, either as part of an everybody message or as an individual message, that's where it'll show up, and it just becomes like a text back and forth. As a presenter, it's always good because that's an easy way while you're presenting, somebody can say, back off the mic a little bit, you're killing me, or speak louder, I can barely hear you, or sorry guys, I gotta go, or something like that. It's a nice function to have there. That's also if you are the host of a meeting, if you're the initiator of the call, that's where you will admit people into your room. When you log into Zoom, you go to basically a waiting room, and then you have to be admitted into the room, and that column on the right is where that occurs. That's also, you'll see the microphones and the camera pictures there. A lot of times when people come in, their video doesn't automatically start. And so if you hover over someone's name, you'll see mute and more. Mute is your best friend because during a service, there's always somebody that decides they're going to cook breakfast while they listen or enjoy in worship, or the dog decides to bark. And so you'll want to mute them just so everybody doesn't have to listen to the dogs barking. Another important feature is at the very bottom where it says mute all. And some of these features you may not see because you're not the host, but at the bottom of that list, it'll say mute all, unmute all, etc. When you use mute all, it mutes everyone except the host. So if you're the host, your mic is still live. We find that's actually, when you're playing music over Zoom, the music and people singing and the delays and things tend to get off. So our experience at Redland Baptist Church has been that we'll introduce the song, we'll do that. When the music starts to play, then we'll mute everybody so they feel free to sing and worship in their home, and they don't get into the competing time delays around. You can play with it and do whatever works best for you, but that's just our experience. And then also during the time of the message, we'll mute everyone except for Richard, so that again we don't get the competing dogs or the kids running across the room screaming or whatever, interrupting the message. And then that's the beauty of Zoom. It is very interactive. It promotes interaction. For the longest time, we've used Facebook Live, and I think Howard's going to talk a little bit about that, so I won't go over into that realm. But when we found that we weren't going to be able to meet face-to-face and wanted to be able to interact with our folks, we found Zoom platform to be a very useful tool. And we've actually seen not only attendance among our own regular attenders go up as a result of this use during this time, but we've also reached out to several different states. People that Richard had pastored previously, some parents. My mother, for example, lives in North Carolina. She's been joining our services. Some other folks have been joining, and so it helps to broaden that. You also have a toolbar at the bottom where, again, there's a chat function there. You can launch the chat window from that place as well. That's the most efficient way to launch the everybody chat there. It's also a button to share your screen. Typically, we run ProPresenter typically in our services, and that's where we would put the words up on the flat screens in the auditorium. We use ProPresenter and just basically put it up on the screen here so folks can follow along with the music or whatever the case may be. There's also a function to record, which I'm just now starting to record. So for those of you who just are listening to this, you missed a real basic introduction, but at the end of the meeting, when you stop recording, it will create a file that then you can upload and share your message and your service beyond just the time of that it's being produced. Let me show you one example of a screen share, and let's see if I can. An important feature, by the way, when you're going to screen share, there is a box in the bottom left. When you launch that screen share, it says share computer sound. Make sure that if you're broadcasting sound from your computer, that you use that function. Otherwise, it will be very tinty, and it'll be not nearly as good. So here's the basic Zoom setup. The first column for a lot of folks is plenty, although there is one limitation that you'll find constraining. There is a free account. Literally all you do is go sign up. It's free. It's for a single host for up to 100 participants. You can have unlimited one-on-one meetings. Here's the kicker though. It's limited to 40 minutes for any group meetings. Okay? So after 40 minutes, actually about 35 minutes in, you'll get a message saying your meeting is about to end. And if it's a meeting with somebody, you can just say, let's log off and log back in. You can get right back in. But obviously you don't want to do that in the middle of a worship service. So this next column is the one that we use, which is the Pro account. It offers those same features that I mentioned a moment ago. Includes up to 100 participants, unlimited amount of time. Actually, the meeting duration limit is 24 hours. So sorry, Richard, you can't go more than 24 hours on your message. You'll have the ability to record and store your messages. You get a custom personal meeting ID, which is a number that you can use anytime. They don't encourage using personal meeting ID and sharing it publicly. That was where some of the security issues that you may have been reading about started, and some other features. So that Pro account for most of us will be plenty. If you find that you need to go to the next level, which is 300 participants, actually, before I go to that, with the Pro account, you can add on, there's an add-on right here, need more participants. You can actually do an add-on for 500 for $64.99. Okay, and obviously that's a monthly fee, and you can stop it at any time, obviously. So if your congregation is larger than you have more than 100 connections, not 100 people, it's 100 connections, then you might need to go over into that. I don't know if we have too many of our churches that would go over that, but there will probably be somebody. So,
Tim,
yes.
Could I ask a question? Yeah, you made reference to that audio feature. We've been using this for a few weeks now, and I've yet to discover that. What menu is that under?
Okay, when you hit screen share,
right,
It's in the bottom left of the
Okay.
little box that pops up.
Okay.
There's an interim window that pops up when you share your screen where you select what it is you want to share.
Okay.
The tendency is to pick whatever it is you want to share and forget to share the computer sound.
Yeah. Okay.
And again, the benefit of that is that way the computer sound is going directly into Zoom as opposed to coming out of your speakers, back into your computer microphone, and then into the system. It creates a really not really good quality sound.
Yeah, we found that out. So,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, because the first week we did this, I knew it was there. I forgot to do it. I forgot to do it. And by the second week we had it fixed.
Hey, Tim?
Let's see, Brad, what else was there you wanted me to cover on the Zoom part of this?
That sounds good. I think someone had a question.
Okay, another question.
I do have a question, Tim, if you don't
Absolutely.
mind. Because you keep talking about the lower left where it says screen share. Could that be different from the pro version, from the free version? Because I'm not seeing that at all.
Okay, there are some features as a host that you get that as a participant you don't get.
Okay.
So I may be mentioning things on here that you're not seeing.
Okay.
But when you launch a meeting for your own church, for example, you would see those options.
Okay.
Actually, you mentioned one thing, Ed. Thank you for jogging my memory. When people are coming into the room, typically they will automatically connect. And I mentioned a moment ago the little menu bar on the right with the participants where you could. In fact, let me see if I can do this in a screen share to actually show you. Let's see. We go up here and drag this out. No, it's not going to show me what I want. Anyway, in that menu bar on your right where you're seeing the chat stuff, if you drop down the More button, you will get, as a host, you will get several features there. As a participant, you only get a few, like mute yourself or whatever, leave the meeting. But there you can also say, invite participant to launch their video. That then sends, some of you saw this on your screen, it popped up on your menu saying the host asked you to share your video. That's a way to kind of help folks once they come in, and they can do that. The other feature is in the bottom left, and all of you have this, bottom left hand corner of your window is a mute button. Typically when you come into a meeting, a lot of times that will be activated so people can their mute, as I just did. And there's also a feature there that, and again, I'll go a little bit deeper here. Next to both the microphone and the video are drop up menus. And you can go into these audio settings, and this is a really neat feature. See this? Well, you can't see it because I'm not showing my screen. One of the options there is press and hold space key to temporarily unmute yourself. What that means is when you mute yourself, it stays muted until you press on the space bar, which is like a push to talk type of thing, which sometimes can be helpful as well. All right, I'm going to mention the breakout room feature. Yes. There is also a feature for breakout rooms that as a host you get. So let's say we wanted to break into small groups of 4 or 5. I could create breakout rooms and then assign you all. I'm not sure, Jacob, if you've used this, do they get the choice to choose a breakout room?
Eric saying,
when I've done it in the past, the host can assign breakout rooms.
Okay, that's what I thought, was that you then had to assign people to certain rooms. But that also is a great feature if you were having like small group studies that broke out from a larger group like this. That's an important feature as well. What other questions do you have?
Got a question. I've only done the breakout room twice, and both times we did it to pray at the end. So I say I had like 12 participants on, and I said, all right, let's split up into groups of 3. And then I'd have 4 breakout rooms with 3 each. And I said, whenever you're done, just log off. Right. So as the host, if I just say end breakout room, does everyone's room just go away and they end up back on the main screen?
Yes.
I've just never ended it because I've never had, the way we've done it, I've never had to pull people back. Is that simply
basically
all?
That's exactly what happens. You end the breakout room because in breakout room is different than in meeting. In meeting closes everybody out and kicks everybody out of everything. But in breakout rooms, we'll end those breakout rooms and bring them back into a center point. I actually saw Greg doing something that I want to point out. I was mentioning the lower left where the microphone and the camera are. Next to the camera, under the drop-up menu, is an option to choose a virtual background. And so one of the things that I do during our worship services is to make people feel a little sense of, okay, we're at church. Richard sits in his office and preaches as he is right now, and I'll sit in the parking lot. So it gives folks a sense of, oh, there's the church. We miss it. Of course, we know the church isn't the building, but being able to choose a different background is kind of fun. Cooped up inside a lot. I was outside today, so that's why I chose my outside deck. One of the things to consider when you're choosing whatever platform you're using is what is it you want to happen. If it's just, I want to show me talking, John Worrell, for example, mentioned that he was going to do a video blog. Facebook Live is great for that because you can have people watch you. They can text comments to you or whatever that you can either respond to or not. And it's literally like 1 or 2 buttons to push and a go. But if you're looking for an opportunity to have folks interact, Zoom is a much more robust platform. And you can also, it has the features to enable you to just have a single speaker speaking to a larger group. So
one of the interesting things that we've been doing with Zoom in conjunction with Facebook Live is the entire church comes on the Zoom, everyone goes mute, and then because we don't have a church building and we're not gathering, so everyone's filming from their home. So even our worship leaders filming from their living room.
Right.
And so we're recording, and as long as the host who's recording has it on speaker view, what's being recorded is simply who's talking at that moment. Right. So everyone's just doing a travel around State College to everyone's different living room.
Yeah.
And then what we're doing is then we take that recording and we download it into Facebook, and then we're projecting that to State College as our live worship feed that everyone else that's not in the Zoom call is just seeing. Literally, it's just a screen going around to different living rooms live, even though it's not live. It was recorded just prior.
Right.
Welcome to the reason why I'm only going to be on for an hour. And so that's been cool to record. And yeah, I'm going to get off.
Yeah. Recording your services is really helpful because for a lot of reasons, folks might not be able to join you at the time you're doing service. This makes your services available 24/7. And it will drive a lot of features that I think Howard might be talking about with Facebook, where that people can view anything that you've got going on. Keep in mind the numbers on Facebook that you get from Facebook Live numbers are literally how many people click into your service. So they may see, oh, Brad's doing something. Let me see what Brad's doing. Oh, okay, I don't want to do that. I want to go do something else. Well, I just got counted in Brad's number. So one of the things as you're measuring what you're doing, again, as the host in a Facebook Live meeting, you get the scale to see how long people actually stayed in your services as well. So,
Hey Tim,
yes.
we've been having some people who aren't necessarily church background people come on, which is great. But one person in particular would have a tendency to apparently leave their microphone open. I could mute the background sound that was very distracting as the host, but then it seemed like their microphone would pop right back on. Because I would always say, you know, would you please, I'd call them by name, would you please close your microphone? And they were doing that. But the next thing I knew, I was muting it. Is there a mechanism that's happening there that I'm not aware of that's causing that microphone to open back up?
If you as the host are muting them, they should not be able to unmute themselves until you unmute them.
Okay.
If you are unmuted from my perspective as the host, you can still mute yourself.
Yeah.
But if I mute you, you can't unmute yourself for the group.
Okay.
And if that's happening, that's a weird glitch that I've not seen before.
Okay.
One thing with that, I would say it's a setting that I think is usually set as default. But if you go into your participants menu when you're the host, there'll be a sub menu you can select, which you can add and remove permissions for participants where they can unmute themselves or they can't.
Right. Okay. Another option that a lot of times, again, would be favorable is in your meeting setup. How do you want people to come into the room? You have the option of automatically muting people when they come in, which again, it creates an extra step for people to get used to, but might be helpful as well for folks to kind of consciously go through and understand those processes. What else? What other questions?
How do you become a host, Tim?
Basically, you have an account, and then one of the I wish I could get to the main screen because I'm in a Zoom meeting on my account. Okay, let me try this. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so this is your main, over here to the left, is the main Zoom window. So the way you become a host is schedule a meeting. Okay, so you click on that. You can create that and call it Joe's Church Meet Service. Create a date, a time. One of the things that I do is we created a single account for everything church. So if you're coming to Sunday service, if you're coming to 7 a.m. men's Bible study on Monday morning, if you're coming to Tuesday Bible study for everybody, if you're coming to our fellowship hour, it's the same login. So I create the date to show up on Sunday, but then I make that a reoccurring meeting, okay? And then you can, this is the part I was talking about. They were encouraging people not to use their personal meeting ID, but to have Zoom generate one automatically. Once it's generated, it will stay the same. They mandate now, this is no longer an option. You have to have a meeting password, but you can change that password.
Hey, Tim?
Yes.
All I'm seeing on your screen share is the ad for the packages on Zoom. I think I know what you're pointing to on that page, but all behind.
Let me try it again. I thought I had chosen correctly. I guess I didn't.
Because all that was behind that was your screensaver.
What about now? Same thing?
Yeah, it's still
It's just the ad for the
packages.
All right. There's another way I can get to this. Hang on.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the web version. of Zoom. And again, let's see, I should be logged in. Yeah. So I'm going to schedule a meeting here. And I get those same things, so same options. Again, call it whatever you want, schedule it whenever you want, mark it as a reoccurring meeting. Again, you can require registration ahead of time. No need to do that. Generate, there's where I was talking about generating a meeting ID automatically as opposed to using your personal ID. The problem with using a personal ID, as a host, people can only get in the room when you, as the host, allow them in. When you use your personal ID number, people can get in anytime. And that's where, again, some of the...
But then that would make them enter the personal ID, correct?
That is correct.
All right, is there any way, because, sometimes we get to teaching and then people are coming late to the meeting and you get the little doorbell and then you got to stop and click the admit. Is there any way to avoid that?
Yes, let me show you one thing. Somebody will always have to admit them, which is why Richard doesn't do the admit.
Well, that's not true. Right now you have enabled waiting room selected. If you unclick that, they can just join automatically. And you just can make it so that you can also make it so that when they join, they're automatically muted.
Yes,
Yeah,
this
but
is where
you don't have a waiting room.
This is where Eric, thank you for pointing that out. This is where you get those options. So one of the things you want to make sure is that in your meetings, I always keep that box unclicked, the enabled to join before the host, so that, again, people can't just pop in the room anytime. Again, mute participants on entry is the one thing. As Eric said, enable the waiting room. And then on the sound, I'm trying to think, there's a place that you can, and that's under your sound options at the bottom left of your screen. You can disable that doorbell. It rings when people come in.
Okay.
And then there's
So if you have enabled them to join before host, is that the screen that just comes up and says waiting for the host? Are they technically in the waiting room?
Well, no, actually, if they log in before you start the meeting, they will say the host has not yet started this meeting.
Okay.
And it'll say, please wait. And then when you join, then you get the screen you saw that said, basically waiting for the host to allow you in the room.
Okay, so as long as we leave an enable waiting room unchecked, they will hook right up.
They just come straight in.
Okay, that's good. Help.
But again, the host, here's an important feature. Because I'm hosting all of our church's meetings, the host has to be the one to start the meeting. Now, once the meeting starts, as we did today, Brad started the meeting, and then he turned the host duties over to me so that I could show you all some of the features and stuff. You can hand off being host once you're in the room, but unless someone has your login information, you as the creator of the meeting, as the host, have to be the one, because down here where it says alternate hosts, those people have to be part of your account. And keep in mind, back to this screen, you get one host for these accounts here. If you want multiple hosts, then you have to go to the business accounts, and it gets a lot more pricey.
Well, we were in the pro, and now, of course, this was early on. They've done 3 or 4 updates in the last couple of weeks, but I switched over to make someone else the host, and we were still playing with things.
Right.
But I couldn't figure out how to switch it back.
Okay, if you go back to that same person's spot on the chat window, you can say reclaim being the host.
Oh, okay.
All right, so let's move on. We've got some other things that we want to deal with today to share some other great, exciting news. So Brad, where do you want to go next?
All right. Guys, I'm so excited about this.
Brad, where do you live? Are you here now?
What's that?
Are you in Pennsylvania now?
Yes, yes, I am here.
Welcome.
Thank you, thank you. I'm in Wrightsville.
Cool.
Yes, if you know where that is. So, all right, I'm going to start sharing my screen. And it asks for a password. Okay. All right. So this is our tech seminar. I'm just going to go through this real quick. We need to be visionaries and seeing, you know, where does our church need to be technologically wise in 6 months, in a year, in 2 years, instead of trying to catch up and what other people are doing. I'm going to share two short clips here. One's from 1962. Just think of what technology was like in 1962. And then what technology was like in 1984. Almost all of us were born in before 84. But anyway, I'm going to share this.
Meet George Jetson.
Calling the Jetsons, Jetsons.
Ah, it's a phone. I'll get it.
Morning, George, dear.
Ah, morning, Gloria. Honey, it's your friend Gloria.
Channels 18, 24, 63, 109, 87, and the Weather Channel.
Weather Channel bringing you world weather in 24 hours.
Hey. Watching on TV for a change.
Can you see me now? Older Marty McFly suffers the ultimate indignity when his boss, Mr. Fujitsu, fires him while he's at home via video chat on his wall-mounted video screen.
Read my facts!
No! Please, no, I cannot be fired! I'm fired! Ah!
That's not so crazy today. Not only are flat wall-hung TVs commonplace, but employers can fire their underlings via video all they want with software like Skype and FaceTime. But then whatever points you give the movie might be negated by its prediction of a house filled with fax machines.
All right, the future is here. It's just incredible that, you know, the Jetsons and also Back to the Future 2, they had flat screens and basically what we are using now. So it always seems impossible until it's done. Sometimes you think, oh, how can I do all this? How can I get up on technology? It just takes time and learning and just one step at a time. One person said, you know, I killed an elephant. How can I eat the whole elephant? And it's one bite at a time. Just one step at a time. All right, we need to be up on YouTube. It's the world's most popular site, so we need to be up on it and having videos and sermons. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. By the way, if you are like 40 and up, most people are on more or less on Facebook. If you're 40 and younger, they go to Instagram first. There is a biblical precedent. Now I want to share this verse with you. This is Jesus. He says, but he said, I must preach the good news. And that's the pictures, your videos are blocking the rest of it. Anyway, someone read that for me because I can't see the far right-hand corner.
It says, I must preach the gospel, preach the good news of the kingdom of God to the other towns also, because that is why I was sent. And he kept on preaching in the synagogues of Judea.
Right. Yes. And so he said, I must. I mean, that's just what we need to be doing. We have to preach the good news of the kingdom of God to other towns also. I found this very interesting that Jesus wanted to go around to other towns preaching the gospel. And that's what we can do now with the internet. And it says he kept on preaching, kept on preaching. How can you get your Bible studies to keep on, your sermons to keep on preaching? we need to, we have an opportunity right now to go around the world physically, but also through the internet. Billy Graham, who is no longer here on earth with us, he's in heaven, but he is still preaching.
One was called Paradise, and one was called the Place of Torment.
I went there and on the internet and just downloaded this little clip this morning. I mean, he is still preaching. And so we can have our sermons reproduced. You know, there are 168 hours in the week. And hopefully this is going to work. The website's going to come up. Okay. So anyway, let me go back. There are 100, I don't know what's happening with the PowerPoint, but anyway, there are 168 hours in the week. And so there's, you know, if your sermon or your service is an hour, that leaves 167 hours that we can still be reaching them with, I think John said that he wants to do a video and, you know, he can just say 2 or 3 minutes and send out that video to everyone in his church. And, you know, I know that you're busy and that's why we're doing this tech seminar. We want to do this maybe twice a month. So this is just not a once and done. We want to keep on doing it. If you're too busy, find someone in your church who can take on this ministry. Doug, who is here with us, he is, I'm not sure if everyone knows, just wave your hand, Doug. There it is.
Share screen, so they're
Yes.
back to speaker view.
Okay. And so Doug he's retired and he is willing to help any church or pastor trying to get them up on the internet and helping them in any way. He's helped out with several websites, and so he can share more a little bit later. But Howard and I were available to consult and just help. And so that's why we've started this internet task force. And the goal is to help you and your church to have a bigger and better online presence that reaches the world. And that is possible. So that's our goal. You know, just as a aside, do you want beautiful church graphics in minutes? Well, there's a site called Canva. It's not Canvas with an S, but it's Canva. And you can just do this just in like 3 minutes, literally. Go there, pick out a picture and put in some words. So there's a new KBA website that we've done. I'm going to see if it comes up. It's not coming up. Okay. Anyway, there's a glitch here in the PowerPoint. But anyway, we have 2 more websites so to give out to a church, so we can give those out. So that is all. I'm going to pass the baton to Howard, and I'm going to stop sharing.
Pass it to me, huh?
Yes.
Brad had asked me to put together 2 or 3 different things that may be of interest. One of the big issues, I think directly related to communicating with your people, is to use as many different venues as possible, but that becomes kind of fruitless unless you have a way to communicate with them. How many of you guys actually have a database program? Let me see you just wave your hands. Database. 3.
How are you defining a database program?
Where you have, do you know what a church database program is?
Apparently not.
Again, define what you mean by that.
We use a church database program to actually keep track of your families and your people. Okay. You use it to collect their emails and be able to do mass emails, those type of things. Now, some people will just put them in an Outlook program and send them out, but you really need to have some access to be able to communicate with your people, because if you're not communicating with your people, they don't know how to connect with you. Now, obviously, you know, Tim, you guys have some type of database program because you're letting your people know about the Zoom meetings. Either that or you're actually typing all of their names into the Zoom invite. I don't know how you're doing that, but if you have a database program, it helps you track a number of different things. And some of the things that Brad had asked me to bring up were about giving, about the communication process, and about actually doing the video-based programs that we're doing now. I don't do live unless we're at the church. I just don't do live anymore. I know we talk about using Facebook Live, but actually what I'm doing is I'm scheduling it to go on Facebook Live. I'm actually conducting and doing the videos ahead of time, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But if you don't have a database program, and there are tons of them out there, but in the last 20 years where I've been looking at technology and understanding different programs, I finally settled on one called Planning Center Online. Have any of you ever heard of Planning Center Online?
No.
Okay, Eric, you've heard of it. It's free. You can add elements to it that are cost oriented, but the actual database itself is free. And what it does is it connects to a program called MailChimp. I don't know if anybody ever heard of MailChimp?
Yeah.
Okay, Eric, Ed, yeah, you've heard of it. Jacob, you're nodding your head, MailChimp. The cool thing about MailChimp is it actually allows me to integrate videos, integrate graphics and things like that nearly no database program does, but it will allow you to do that. I don't know if I can, am I allowed to screen share?
Yes.
Okay, let's see what I've got here. For some reason or another, it's not, oh, show all the windows, okay.
Do any of you guys use a mass texting program?
Well, you can use a mass texting program, but you really have to have it integrated. Now, Planning Center will actually integrate the texting, and you can text everyone through Planning Center, but you have to have their provider. In other words, if I've got AT&T or you have Verizon or whatever your provider is for your text service, you have to actually put that in the system, and you can do that. One of the things that they offer are free plans. If you're watching the screen right now, you can see that you get, you can calendar rooms, but you get unlimited people, and that is their entire family, birthdays, everything is directly related with them. We actually have a program, and you can go into small church. You can do check-ins. Check-ins are not, you say, what are check-ins? Check-ins are where we actually check in our children. When they come to church on Sunday morning or they come to Awana on Wednesday night, they actually check in at a kiosk. We have several kiosks that are set up through the church. It generates a name badge and puts it right on them. It's a real simple program to use, but like I said, you don't have to have that. You can cut that out. We're going to talk about giving in a little bit, and here you can have that, but you don't have to have it. You can cut that out. There are groups. I have, in our church, we have 12 small groups, and we actually coordinate our groups through that. Plus, we also have 11 ministry groups that we communicate with through that. It's not that expensive. And we utilize that. Registrations, I can register people and take their money for events, like if we're doing a men's retreat or a women's retreat or a youth retreat, it actually tracks all of that. And I don't know if you're aware of this now with the IRS. If you're charging for an event-related items that you're charging for in your church, those are no longer considered to be tax deductible. And they have to be recorded in a different aspect. This particular program does that for you, and you don't have to worry about it. Services, we don't use that. That's where you can coordinate everything with your praise team. So there you see, everything is zero. But if you wanted to add the giving back in, for 100 monthly donations is $14, and then it goes up to 250 monthly donations for $29. And so there's a lot of different elements to this that you can look at, but it's called Planning Center. And it's worth at least looking at if you do not have any type of database program. When we go into the Planning Center, we actually are able to go into it in such a way that we're actually tracking just about everything. Maybe a little later when we talk about giving, I can show you how it tracks everything for us. But you need a database program of some type in order to communicate with your people. And this is a good program because it will communicate by text, it'll communicate by email, and plus it generates your own list for phone numbers and things like that. Our church, since we've been kind of meeting offsite, we're actually doing what the scripture says. We're meeting in homes. And so we're meeting in our homes. But one of the things we've done is we took our leadership, our church council and our deacon ministry and our staff, and we divided up the whole congregation where everyone has, 5 or 6 individuals in the congregation, and they're actually maintaining a phone contact with them on a weekly basis, collecting prayer requests, praying with them, encouraging them if they're afraid, and going through these different times with them. Now, Tim, how do I get out of this?
At the top, there's a red button that says Stop Share.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I see that. Stop share. But all of the other things that we can discuss, they're a moot issue if you cannot communicate with your people. Now, I don't know. I assume all of you have some way to communicate with your people, but you need an efficient way to communicate with them. And so I think it's important that you develop some type of database, even if it's just in Outlook, which is a Windows-based program that you can utilize. With that in mind, any questions on a database before I move on? Yeah.
If I could just throw out a couple questions, and please, if you're going to cover
this.
Yes,
go ahead.
And, feel free to pass these by till a later time. But one issue that I've had is trying to send off the audio or the audio and video files. Has anyone found an efficient way to do that? Because especially if you're doing video,
Yes.
files huge.
Yeah, I was going to deal with that.
Sending off the MP4.
Brad, if you don't have a problem, I'll deal with it right now. If your file, if you've pre-recorded, are you pre-recording, Greg?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. You pre-recorded it.
No, recording the Zoom meeting like a Bible study.
Well, when you record the Zoom meeting with your Bible study, if you want it available and you want to be able to send it in an email to someone, the best vehicle to do that I have discovered with that is to go into YouTube and upload it, get a YouTube account, upload it to it, and then go through the process. One of the things you have to remember first off the bat is when you go into that, you have to click. Maybe it'd be better if I just showed you. Let me go back to share screen if I can here. All right, I'm just going to go to. I've got this up here, but I'm going to change it. I'm going to go over here and go into the YouTube. Now I got to move my people because you all are in the way. Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Let's see here. My channel. Okay. If you'll look at this, I know you guys are there, but if you'll look at this right up here in this corner, create a video or post.
How'd you get a
See
picture
that?
of my backyard on there?
Huh?
How'd you get a picture of my backyard on there?
Oh, yeah. You wish that was your backyard.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
But when you start a YouTube account, and it's real easy to set up a YouTube account, but if you set it up, and this one is under me, you can create a video or post, and all you do is click on that. And when you click on that, you have to either go live or upload a video. Since you've recorded your Zoom meeting, you can actually record it or upload a video. So you just want to upload it. You come here, you go and grab a video, and you can pull it over into it. I'll select a file. I'll just go out and I'll select something that I've got here that I've already done. I'm just going to do, let me do this. I'll just select this little file. And when you go into it and you set it up, this says it's a Fiverr speed. I'll talk to you about that, but that's just an ad that I have. And then you've got to make this work properly. It'll prompt you. You'll mess up if you don't do it. It's processing it right now. Under audience, when you scroll down here, this is a key. You have to say, yes, it's made for kids. Okay? If you don't, it won't let you go any further. All right? Then I go to next. When I go into next, I don't want to add an end screen or a card. I usually have it. Mine are all pre-done ahead of time. Then I go to next in visibility. Now here's where the fun part comes in. You can make it public so everyone can see it, and you can make it an instant premiere, but I don't use that. I have done that in the past, and I've had all kinds of different knotheads that have gotten on there and made their 2 cents worth and said all kinds of things. And I think I can turn that off. But what I do is I make it unlisted. That means that anyone with this video link can see your video. All right. And what it's going to do when I save that is it's going to generate this video link. You see it right here. I'm just highlighting it, and you can always get that. What you do is you copy that link and you put it in your email. And you just tell them, click on this link and you can view the service. That's the easiest way.
Go back to that former screen one more time.
Well, I doubt I can, but I'll take you back in here. I'll go into my videos. Right there it is. And let's go to the details
Okay, I got it. And for kids part, it was the
right here.
Yeah.
On the very first screen.
Yeah, but up above that, when you went to tell it about publishing, maybe it's a screen after that one.
Yeah, it's a screen after that.
It's a screen after that. I didn't make any changes. Let me see more options. No, it didn't. It's not going to let me go back. I could create a new one.
I'll get in and figure it out. But
the thing is you want to make sure that you do click that it's made for children. If you don't, it won't.
Well, the made for children part is meaning that you're directly aiming towards children. If you read the learn more to the side of it, it talks about that you're creating something for children to watch, that you're teaching children specifically, for parents to know that this is made for children to teach.
I've tried it doing the other way. Yeah, and Chandler, I've tried it doing the other way, and it wants so much information. It wants to know what it's about. You know, I went through that, so I just started clicking. Yes, it's okay for children to watch.
Yeah.
But since I don't make it public,
friendly.
Yeah, is it kid friendly?
Yeah, actually,
but since I don't make it public, I always make it where that it is unlisted. You can see all of mine are unlisted, which means I can give that to anyone to watch. But if you said, Greg, you said, how do I put it into an email so that my people can watch it? This is the easiest vehicle to do it. And you just get that, code, and you can, after you've even saved it, you can get it, and it's unlisted. Right here is your video link.
Sure, I see that. There. My question's back to you're not making it public. That sounds like a contradiction.
No.
Are you making it public when you post it on there?
I don't make it public you can make it public if you want to, but then YouTube, just in their discretion, will put it up on their sites any way they want to do it. What I recommended was that
then you have control of it.
You have control over who can view it.
Okay.
I've had people have come back and made comments on things, that were ugly or demeaning, or someone that didn't like you, Greg. They say, I don't like that Greg guy. And then they use that YouTube as a forum to badmouth you when it's public. But if I put it into this, then the people can watch it and they can see it, and you know if they opened it or looked at it because of your email program. But at the same time, you're protecting yourself, you're protecting your church, and you're still making it available to your people or to anyone that you want to share it with. Yeah. Now, the other thing is you can't control who actually, your people can share it with, and they could share it with anyone. But that's how that's the easiest way to put a video into an email, is to get this video link after you've uploaded it and recorded it to there. Now, the easiest way to put a document is with Google Drive. You guys ever use Google Drive?
Yeah.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
You can set up a Google Drive account. And by the way, if you're a church, you can get what's called G Suite free, which is for nonprofits. And you need to look into that. G Suite gives you emails, gives you all kinds of storage and other things that are available to you. As a matter of fact, our church, for our church meetings, not for our church services, but for our meetings with our staff or with the deacons or with the leaders that are in our church council, we actually use a program called Google Meet. And Google Meet does basically the same thing that this program does. But because I have a G Suite, anyone can participate in it. Does basically the same thing. Now, what I do is I set up a PDF file. If I have a document, I set up a PDF file, and I open this up. And like I have Sunday notes on here. All right, so this was my message on Sunday, the most important message in the world. Are you still with me? Okay. Yeah. I click on that and I get shareable link right here. Has to be a PDF file. You get a shareable link. When I go in there, I go into share settings and I copy the link right here. I just copy that link. I put it in my email and anyone can open up that document. And so, and believe me, I've been around the mulberry bush trying to figure out how to do things, but I have discovered that YouTube for videos and Google Drive for documents are the two simplest and easiest ways to put a document into an email. And when you do that, they just click on it and they're ready to go. There's no issues related to that. Hopefully that answers your question. I know I've gone past my 10 minutes, Brad. I apologize.
No problem. That was great. Any questions real quick?
Do any of you recommend buying a one of these video cameras for like mounting on a tripod if you're going to try to record and upload to like a Vimeo or anything of that nature?
I think it depends on what you're going to record. If you're going to be in your office, you could just use a phone and you wanted to record a 1-minute video message, or if you're going to record a sermon in a auditorium.
Yeah. Phones are excellent video devices if you've got a newer model. They have great cameras. They have great sound. Now, what I'm using right now is called a Marantz Turret. I actually have a professional microphone. I don't always pull it into view, but I do have it into view sometimes when I'm speaking so that people know that that's the case. I don't know if you notice I have a black background. I've set up a studio in my office to do all of this, and I'll talk about that in the next segment that Brad gets me. But I have some suggestions directly related to cameras. If you want to discuss that when we do that later, Brad.
Yes.
I do have a question about database, Howard. Access for this, you aren't the one that set it up, right? I mean, your secretarial staff took care of setting it up, but do you have access?
I did it, John.
Oh, you did it? Okay.
And then I gave our secretarial access to it. And I gave the others access to it. So I have set up these databases. I know how to do that. I know how to get you started if you wanted to get together and discuss it when they allow us to do it, because I'm not coming to your house right now.
Oh, you're not?
No, I'm not.
But right here, just like this.
I got a new house.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, someone complimented our services the other day, and they said, we really want to compliment your tech team. Well, I am the tech team. So okay. I am self-taught, so I've learned this the hard way.
And I just want to add, Howard told me this last week that his Wednesday night Bible study, he's had consistently, 10, 12 people coming before the pandemic hit. But last Wednesday, I believe you said you had 143.
Yeah, 143.
Yeah.
Wow. And it's growing because more people are clicking in and actually watching it from our, we actually are going out YouTube through emails. We're going out live stream, and we're going out on Facebook. And just this week, we added Twitter. So the video is going out to Twitter. And like Tim said, the numbers can reflect if someone's coming in for a moment or if they're staying the whole time. All of them are like that. Don't let that detract you, because we do not know. And the word is the word. It never returns void. It always goes out. And I look at it, and even like when I first started this several weeks ago, I looked at how many people had watched it that first time, and it just keeps growing. It just keeps growing and growing. And I'm thinking, if someone hears the message of the gospel and receives Christ, to him be all the glory.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. All right, well, let's move on to Doug. Doug, can you just introduce yourself, just a little bit about your background, where you're at, and then also what you're willing to do as far as helping a pastor or a church?
Sure. Can you hear me, everybody?
Yep. Yeah.
Wonderful. This is my fourth Zoom conference, and it's all been within the last 2 weeks. So if we're talking Zoom, I'm not your man. But I did want to share that since I'm probably everybody but Brad and Pastor John Burr, you've never met me before. I'm kind of a recent arrival. My wife and I moved into Quincy Village retirement community almost 3 years ago. We moved from Maryland to our current home, which is just north of Waynesboro, Pennsylvania, and 3 miles south of Pastor John's church at Central Baptist Mont Alto. Since I've been a part of the association, well, let me go back. I've had different experience with different church websites. I worked with the website at South End Baptist in Frederick, Maryland for at least a dozen years. I helped with the church website at Paramount Baptist in Hagerstown, Maryland. And during that time, since I lived in Maryland, I was part of the Blue Ridge Baptist Association. But it got to the point where I felt that God was leading me to help technologically in whatever way I could with the Keystone Association. So I approached Pastor John even before we joined their church and explained their situation. And last week he got me into contact with Brad. Since I mentioned working with websites, mostly that's what I was going to concentrate my presentation on. Some of you do have them. Some of you have very elaborate ones and probably are somewhat conversant even as pastors like Howard, who are their own tech masters that do everything. but I just wanted to help in that area, and Brad asked me to be one of the presenters to go into that area. I think that's about.
And I'll just say that Doug went to every church's website in KBA and did an analysis of who was doing what, who was streaming, who was on Facebook, who was on Twitter, etc. So he did all that research, and so he kind of knows where everyone's at. So go ahead.
Yeah, and anytime I can be of help, before I didn't write it down so I can share it on the screen, but if you needed to contact me directly, my Gmail address is dbart47, the year I was born, at gmail.com. And as Brad mentioned in the earlier introduction, that since I'm retired and don't really have anything else to do, I'm willing to help in any way I can, especially during this time of the pandemic.
Thank you.
Would you like me to go ahead with what I wanted to share, Brad, at this time?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, if I can get to share screen. Howard covered a lot of what the subject matter I wanted to share, but I want to take it at a slightly different approach. If I can find the appropriate place on my screen. I might need to shrink it a little bit here to see everything. But I wanted to, he was talking about having email contact lists. Databases definitely are one way to do that. But to put in a shameless plug for the website we have at Central Baptist, I wanted to see how that can be used in terms of a website environment. For example, developing a contact list, if you want people to subscribe, there's a join mailing list option in the left, and it says there's two different databases at the time to subscribe to. The Central Baptist members or just the general subscribe list. He mentioned also that you can obtain texting information, but it does have to recognize the carrier.
Mobile carrier.
Mobile carrier. If you don't do that, I found that out by personal experience, that if you just put in somebody's cell number and you don't have the appropriate carrier, they won't get the text message. So that's one thing that has to be taken care of up front, but it allows you to get their name, email address, mobile number, and so forth. Just to the right of that, you can see that the latest video from Pastor John, Easter Sunday, 2 days ago, I put that on the homepage of the website. And that makes people, I also send out emails, and that's one thing that this website, the service I use, I found out about it from Keystone Baptist Association, because that's the web hosting service they've been using, at least up to this point. Where they're going from here, I don't know, but I found out some very nice features of that. There's kind of an integrated database, if you will. It's a very basic one, but it does cover a lot for small churches like ours. Like if I go back to the site administration, leaving the home page, there's a section here on the left side of the page called mailing lists. And I've developed a mailing list of 11 email subscribers and 2 text subscribers. So with that mini database, if you will, I can send an email directly to all 11 or 13 subscribers if you include the text. And you just click on that, and it opens up. Put in the subject, the message that you want to send out, and then send the email. But as some of you may know, some of these web hosting packages can be somewhat pricey, but I thought this was reasonable because it was similar in price to the hosting service that Central Baptist had prior to this.
What's the name of this one?
Pardon?
What's the name?
The hosting service for this is called mychurchwebsite.net. It's run by a company out in Oklahoma. It seems to be a lot of has a church-related environment. For example, on the home page, I can show, oh, this is another urgent alert that pops up. I had that set up too, so that whenever somebody comes to the website, this alert pops up and it explains the status that the church is closed and until further notice, and that pastor's Easter message was available on the homepage of the website. So they just click on that to close that message. I have it timed so that that message will stay popped up when people come in to visit, click on the site for the first time until the end of April. So I may have to extend that beyond April 30th, but hopefully at this time I won't need to. Does anybody have any questions on the website? I also have a YouTube link up here and a Facebook page link up here on the home page. So the hosting service gives you that capability of entering URLs for those two places. If the church does have a YouTube channel or a Facebook page, those can all. And if they have Twitter or Instagram or some other means, social media, those can be added in as well. Let me see. I think that's about all I can think of concerning the.
So Doug, you are willing to help any pastor and church to kind of get up with setting up their site or taking it to the next level?
Yeah, I'm sure, Brad. Depending on, as you had mentioned, the churches throughout the association are in different stages of development in terms of their websites. And it would be my hope to meet with the pastor personally through Zoom or whatever means, and help maybe the next level if that's the desire. You had mentioned that several churches have a lot more developed than others, and some don't have websites at all. So I think that's a good tool, and there's different resources for obtaining websites. I know from past experience that I don't know if you've heard of Weebly.com, but when I was in Maryland, they had the church use that website hosting service. But it gets into the process too of working with domain names and hosting services. Those of you who have websites are aware of that, but those of you who don't, and I could maybe walk you through that process somewhat as well. To give you an idea, it's a couple $100 a year for this particular service, but as I mentioned, it has more features than the service that the church had prior to this year.
Doug, you do the updates for this?
Yes, I do the updates. So
how long does it take you in a week, for example, to do that?
Well, it depends on how much information is going on. Right now, the main thing that I'm doing each week is that I'm posting the YouTube video of the most recent Sunday on the homepage. And then I have a sermon video library page where I have the two, hopefully it will open up. There we go. Sermon video library where I have the two previous videos on it. So I just kind of rotate them from the home page to the library page each week. And mostly the other, I think in terms of time being consumed, a lot of times if I send out emails to the congregation as a whole, to those 11 email addresses that I have, I try to keep them up to date on things that are going on, or other resources like links to David Jeremiah's church or Robert Jeffress, if they can watch online live or watch recordings. I thought that it would be important for them to have that, in addition, of course, to Pastor John's sermons.
Right. Does anyone have a quick question for Doug?
Oh, nice work.
I just wanted to mention one other thing, if I may, before I relinquish control here. If I can get to it. I don't know how many of you have Gmail accounts, but if you wanted, I wanted to go over setting up a group email, mailing list through Gmail. That's about the only one I'm really familiar with, so I can't. Howard had mentioned MailChimp, I think, which is another means of doing that, but I believe there's a cost involved with that. I'm not sure. Is that right, Howard?
Not that I'm aware of.
Only
Okay.
if you send more than 10,000 emails a month.
Yeah, if you send more than 10,000, yeah.
Well,
Right,
okay.
yeah.
Well, that's good to know, because I don't know.
There is a
that we
learning
would-
curve with MailChimp, though.
Okay,
You have
yeah.
to invest the time to learn how to use it.
Let me just show you here. In the dots here in the upper right corner, the square dots, configuration, Google Apps. For those of you who have Gmail accounts, I think you have this on yours as well. I'm not sure, depending on how update you are. But you can go to Contacts. I'm having trouble moving things over the full screen. But if you want to, you can create an individual contact, or you can go to Labels. For some reason, they call group emails labels. You can see here I have a former Sunday school class that I had in Maryland, and another couple of other groups. But you can create label at the bottom of the label category. So you can create it, name it, save it, and then you can add individual contacts to that label name. And then when you go to send out an email through Gmail, you can just type in maybe the first couple of letters in your address, in your to box, and it should pull up the group label name, and click on that and then send out your email, and it should send it out to everybody you have listed as contacts under that group. So that's a free and easy way. Another thing is that if you have a website, you should have a domain name attached to that, and whatever service hosts your domain name, they should have the capability, I would think. You might have to check with them, the capability of setting up group email. I've had that done in the past with other hosting services.
Yeah, Doug?
Yes.
Google, that's who we use. We have the free, it's a free for nonprofits. They give you access to everything, all of their different apps that they have. They give you everything under what's called G Suite.
Yeah, I remembered you saying that earlier, and I hadn't heard of G Suite before, and I appreciate that.
As a matter of fact, that's why, you can contact me at Pastor Howard at familyofgodcc.com. And all of our staff have their own email address that's familyofgodcc.com because it's set up under the church account. And they have access to all of that. Now, we don't use their database because we have a church database that we utilize, that Planning Center Online, which is free as well, for the actual information. But I have everything on every family member, in ours, and I can track the demographics of the church and the community and so forth through that. But we utilize the G Suite a lot. And I think it's a good idea that you're showing people how to do this through, the Google email. But you can take it a step further, Doug, if you will get your church's tax exempt information and their ID information through the federal government, and you can actually apply for and get the G Suite for the church, which is free. And I think it would open up a whole new realm of things for you at the church.
That's a wonderful idea. Thank you so much for sharing that, Howard.
Thank you, Doug.
Do you have any experience with Apple Mail? I've had trouble creating group emails in their contacts.
They are not really set up for that. That's just a feature that they added on there, hoping people would take advantage of it. But I don't think they really are set up that well for that. Do you use a Mac?
Yeah.
Okay. Most of these programs are now internet based. Yeah. So the G Suite or Google Mail is set up through the internet, so it doesn't really take any space or do anything with regard to your actual computer. In other words, it doesn't depend on your operating system. But if you use the Apple program, it will.
Well, what I've noticed, Apple is set up like my account's in Gmail, so all it is it takes your account with Google and it just kind of almost becomes a middleman type of operator. I found it simpler to use than Gmail, but it's using the Gmail stuff.
It creates an alias.
Right.
Yes, it creates an alias. Uh-huh. And you're right, it's not that hard to use, but do you use it on your phone too?
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the cool things about Planning Center is I get a free app with it too. So everybody in our church can have the app. They can give through the app. They can do all kinds of things through it.
I was wondering if we could just everyone go around and tell what is your greatest tech need, if it can be in a word or in a sentence.
Doug's unshare his screen. At the top of your screen, Doug, there's a red button that says stop share.
Okay, that was going to ask. Oh, I see it right up there. Yeah, I lost it with all my desktop information. I was going to ask if somebody could close my share or what. So there we go. Thank you.
So let's just go around. David, you're first. What is your greatest tech need?
I had it on mute, sorry. Other than time, just about everything. We just did our first service this past week at First Baptist Church. And it was rough, but we had a lot of good response, and we're going to try to be polishing it up as we go along. This is a lot of good information. I like the G Suite and the Planning Center. I really want to get involved with that.
Okay. John Worrell.
My wife is always buying me tools. And, I've got a drill press and a table saw and et cetera, all kinds of tools. Well, we were talking about this, what we felt God wanted us to do about this video blogging. And so she went out and bought me an iPad, a very generous woman. So, it's just the idea of learning the technology and putting it in place. That's the idea, just one step at a time. So I'm extremely thankful.
John Burr?
I think we're doing
Hey,
really
John.
well. I was a little slower to adapt because I think, like most, I was treating this as just like a snow day rather than a prolonged thing. But I think we're coming around, and I've really, like I say, putting on YouTube and different things. And I'm fortunate that I have Doug helping me with the webpage and emails, and my wife has been a YouTube vlogger for a long time. So she edits my videos, gets them up, films them, does all the stuff. So I'm doing really well. I think it's really good. So.
Okay, good. Kenny Craig.
I think we're fine right where we're at. God's blessed us with talented folks, and we're only using Facebook Live, but we had over 2,400 view last week, and
wow,
we're still got some folks in the dark days though that don't have any kind of computer access, so we're about to deliver CDs to them so that they can keep up with what's going on audio wise. God's blessed.
Great. Praise
Amen.
the Lord. Don.
Well, I think kind of what Kenny was saying. I can do most of the tech stuff. If not, I'm pretty sure I can learn it. But I have a significant amount of our congregation that isn't tech. And I don't have anyone to hand off the tech, the doing of it to either. And so trying to find the tools that I can use, but honestly, hand off to other people to do. That's my challenge.
Okay. Yeah, and I think Doug would be willing to meet with somebody and just walk them through, setting up accounts or whatever tech needs you had. So, yeah.
Yes, I would.
Ed Roman.
Well, I'm with Don, having someone to hand it off to. But the biggest need is setting up mass texting, and then making changes to the website. I'm a one-man show, and I'm not very good, so I just need help.
Okay. All right, Michael Knott.
Our church is pretty much in the dark ages. I got some people that have computers, but we don't do any computer stuff here at all. And I think after this pandemic, or while we're doing it, we need to step up the situation. I have a fella now that's really good, but he's been challenged with cancer, so I kind of don't go to him too much because of the fact that he's still challenged with that. But he's getting better. We're hoping that after this is all over with him and all, I can start setting up some things with him and be able to get out to the congregation. But like some of your congregation, I got people that don't have any computers or anything like that. So it's challenging.
I think Kenny had a great idea with the CDs or DVDs. That's great.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Richard.
Of course, I'm very fortunate to have Tim heading a lot of this stuff up for us here, and I don't really worry too much about it. But I think one of our needs is like John said, is tools, better tools. Because even when we're doing FaceTime Live, we're just going through a phone. If we had a way to do at least 2 cameras and close-ups, it would be better. But I think just knowledge is the big thing, and I'm blessed with Tim, so I honestly don't worry too much about it. He's my knowledge, so I'm grateful for that. And then the other thing is time. And who was it? I think Ed mentioned a website. We have one, but it's the old one is horrible, and nobody wants to take on that responsibility of maintenance and keeping up with it. So a lot of little things. I think a lot of little components in this. But
okay, Greg Allen.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Small membership and older membership, and not being able to hand off. We'd all love to have that younger person who just does tech like it's nobody's business and loves it and does it with ease. And for me, I find myself even sometimes just, I think we've done 3 services and a bunch of Bible studies now on Zoom. And when I'm having to worry about getting the technological stuff just right, it gets me out of the spirit of everything I've prepared to deliver, and it becomes a hindrance. I think I'm getting a little better at it, but I would much rather concentrate, especially leading into a preaching service, on just where my thoughts are anchored on the message, and so that's kind of frustrating.
Okay, Jake. You're muted right now.
My space bar wasn't working. All right. I think one of the things that we're struggling with right now is having multiple people know how to use our systems. We have a lot of great systems in place and everything, but pretty much me, one other person who really knows how to manage some of them, and I'm pretty much the guy who knows how to manage everything. And so whenever something needs adjusted or something like that, it usually comes to me. So finding people willing to take on and share that is definitely a big thing.
Okay. Tim Parker.
Yeah, so I am, like Richard, fortunate to have someone who is much more tech savvy than I am. Chandler does a great job with that. I think from my perspective, and kind of Chandler, he'll have his own opinion about things, but from my personal perspective, one of my biggest things is trying to make sure we are reaching as many as possible through the various platforms. Is there a better way? Is there a better platform? Is there are we all that we're doing, are we able to archive it in such a way that it's able to we can still connect it to our website like we've done in the past, and so just all those kind of things, those kind of questions I keep tossing at Chandler, and we kind of work through those things together. I'm being forced to make myself a bit more tech savvy. I'm not completely illiterate, but pretty close to it. But I'm getting better as time goes, and so that's probably my biggest concern at this point, is just making sure that we're maximizing the platforms as much as possible.
Josh?
Yeah, so I think, I identify with what Tim just said there of not being completely technologically illiterate, but having to stretch myself a good bit during this time. But overall, things are kind of getting settled. Things are going well. This past Sunday was our 4th Sunday doing the YouTube Live. That seems to be going well for the congregation. Tomorrow will be our 3rd Wednesday night of doing a Zoom prayer meeting together, and that's just been a really sweet time. I'm still looking at maybe some other platforms to try to, be able to have a time of singing, maybe do a hymn sing with the congregation, and Zoom doesn't do that well. So I know Howard mentioned the Google Suite, the Google Meet thing. So looking into that, doing some more looking into better tools, because the platforms seem to be working pretty well, but they could be improved by better tools. But overall, things are going really well.
Good. Chandler, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, like Tim said, I think tech, the thing with tech is that you never do it perfectly. It's just constantly learning, getting better at it. And I know for me, because I do love tech, I do stuff with tech all the time. So it's just constantly trying to get better, constantly looking at what we can improve on, looking at what best ways to connect. I think YouTube is probably the place to connect with people right now, because YouTube is so popular. It's outdoing TV in a lot of stuff. So it just constantly getting better, and then trying to help some of our older folks in the church say, hey, let me help you out. Let me tell you how you can do this as well, you can join in. So yeah.
Thank you. One thing I asked Doug to kind of think about, he lives in a retirement community, and so how can we reach those in our churches that are, maybe 50 and up, sometimes 60 and up, that don't really know how to get on to the internet and so forth. And so anyway, he's thinking about different ways we can do that. But Kenny had a great idea with the CDs or DVDs. But anyway, I'm going to pass it off to Howard again. And feel free, if you guys are busy, you need to leave, that's fine. But Howard, go ahead. And he's got a bunch of great stuff to share.
Yeah, if you all leave now, it'll make me insecure. Oh,
sticking with you, Howard.
Okay, two things. I was looking at our time, and I really need to move fast. The big thing is, and even on Doug, on your site, I noticed there's no giving option there. And one of the things that Brad and I had discussed, and that Doug had observed too, was that a lot of churches don't have a vehicle for giving, and you really need one right now. Now, a lot of you are having people mail in your money. Is that right? I mean, they're mailing it in, and I think that's good. But there are other options that you can utilize. Our church uses something called Stripe. Now, all of these different what do you call them, programs that if I can find it, I don't even know where it is.
Sure, Howard.
Yeah.
I know of two others while you're looking for it.
Yeah, go ahead and tell them about those, and I'll pull this up.
And there is a Generosity. There you go.
Yeah, let me get something else here. I'll go in here. Generosity, yes. I had two that I put together. This is what we use. Stripe. All of them have a fee, but not all of them have a monthly fee. And Stripe is 2.9% on a credit card and plus 30 cents on a credit card. You say, man, they've taken some of my money. Yeah, but that's out of, if they give $100, then you only got 2.9% and then 30 cents,
Hey,
it didn't make a lot of difference.
We're looking at PowerPoint.
Oh, you're looking at a PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, you shouldn't be looking at a PowerPoint.
Hebrews 11:1.
No, that's not what I wanted you to look at. All right.
So
Let me go out of this. I'll stop share that. And let me go back into share screen. And here, Stripe pricing. I click on that. You got it?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. This is Stripe. And the reason that we got involved with Stripe because it integrates so beautifully with our planning center. When I go into planning center and I go to giving, it actually gives me, I can look at this month. We had 2 Sundays this month, and I can track that giving. But what I wanted you to see down here was before we never had that much. It was coming in online, but look here how much we're getting more people to give online than we are people that are mailing it in. And it's starting to change dramatically with regard to that. And so that's one of the things with this planning center. I can track all of that data. I can track everything that's directly related to our giving, how many people gave, how much has been given here, just in generalities. I don't look at the individual person, but I can look at all of that information. And Stripe pulls that factor in. And this factor that I'm getting right here, the $65.91, that is less the fees that we received in Stripe during just this month. So that's one way of doing it. Let me stop. Well, maybe I'm going to stop share there. I'm going to go back to another screen because here's another one that you can use.
Howard, because you are already set up in giving, in e-giving. Did you
Yes.
notice any difference when the pandemic hit?
Here's the easiest one to do, and it's free. PayPal. You all know what PayPal is.
Yeah. Howard,
Anybody who buys anything on eBay, for nonprofits, you can sign up for a PayPal account for a nonprofit, and you can actually have your people give through PayPal. And it's a really simple process. And they actually, Doug, they'll give you a button to put on your website. And so you click on that, and you can actually have direct access to giving on your site through PayPal.
Right.
It's
Howard?
Yes.
I wanted to mention, you mentioned that we didn't have an online giving. The my church website does have an interface with PayPal, but that's the only one.
Yes. Well, this will be easy to do, and they'll give you a button to actually put on your site. You know, just how you put the player for the sermons. You can actually put that on there as well. But your people need options, I think, with direct relationship to doing that.
Howard, before you get too far away from Stripe, they have, I use Stripe with another organization that I do some work with. And Stripe has an option where that either you as the organization, in this case the church, can pay the fee, or you can say the contributor pays that fee.
True. Right. That's exactly right.
And when you're looking at options, that's one that
well, yeah, that wasn't what I wanted to do. Let me do. When we go on our website, as you'll see here, you go on our website. I just recently put a big button in for give, just to draw a little bit more attention to it. But then this is our website, and we're set up pretty standard where you scroll down. Most things are scroll down now, where you go through the different elements that are there, how to get there, prayer requests. And then we have the giving that goes online. And when you make a donation, it actually gives you how much, the general, if you want to give it for one time, if you want to give it regularly. And then if you click regularly, it'll say, do you want to give it every month? You want to give it every week? And you just put in your email and your first name and last name, and then it continues. But it's a real simple process, and we have utilized it greatly in all that we have been doing. It's just been phenomenal. And some people were a little afraid. Now, the thing about the giving is that you can give by credit card, you can give by debit card, which functions the same as a credit card, or you can set up an ACH, which is an automatic checking. And you can set that up through them as well. They give you the information. They do a little transaction to see, is this working? Is it not working? They take like 3 cents out, and then they deposit 3 cents back. It's a little bit of an odd process, and we have people that do that. So I just think that it's something you should consider. Yes.
Is this part that you're showing us now, is this through Stripe?
Yeah. This is what it looks like. On our site, we've got it set up just that way.
Howard,
I was trying to think.
I think Brad was asked that question earlier, and I missed the response because you were doing this before the current conditions, correct?
We've been doing it for years.
All right. So, do you know what type of change it's been since?
Oh yeah. I'll give you an example.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
I'll give you an example. 3 years ago, we were averaging, maybe 4 years ago, we were averaging between $10,000 and $12,000 a year online. Okay. It has grown exponentially since then. And bear in mind, our budget, we have a budget of $260,000, $270,000 a year, and we bring in close to $300,000 a year, and 10 to 12,000 was a minuscule amount in that. Now our online giving this past year, even before we got into this coronavirus thing, it had gone up to over 40%. And then now it's gone up to like 60% of all the money that we're bringing in is coming in online. So this is going to be a new norm, I think, in the future. A lot of our people discovered how easy it was, and they've said to me, this is really easy. And here's the cool thing. They get a receipt right when they give it. I mean, it sends them a receipt right that moment. And they have it. And if they're in this is just a view of our one of the apps that's available to us, and you can go in and you can give online, you can check out your groups and things like that. I don't want to really go into that, but I think that if you set up some type of giving, and PayPal's the simplest, I think there is a little bit of time where people learn. And like someone had said earlier, I don't know whether it was Ed or Doug or someone, but after this scare is over and we're back into our churches, we have to start thinking about what happens if this crops up again. What happens if this prolongs, if there's a relapse of this virus and we find ourselves quarantined again? How are we going to be able to facilitate this? And the more that you set it in place, the easier that it will be to implement in your church. So you need to start setting your standards now. Now that's what this whole task force is about, is bringing us kicking and screaming into the 21st century and helping us to be able to facilitate whatever those needs are. Now, bear in mind, what I share, what Doug shares, they may not fit your exact needs. They're just ideas, but we would be glad to help you with those ideas. And so does anybody have any questions on the money? Yes, Kenny.
Hey, Howard, PayPal sounds really good because it's free, but my deacons have already been researching this before this pandemic hit, and we just got through doing the online directory. They thought it was easier to get through the church before the online giving because of the fees. But with PayPal, so to set up an account, do you have to have a routing number that they send the money to?
Yes. Yeah, you got to give them your checking account information with any of these companies.
Right.
All of them, you have to divulge that information. And so it becomes a matter of who's dependable, who's reliable. We have found Stripe to be very dependable, very reliable company. Their integrity is impeccable. The same way with PayPal. PayPal's right on top of things. If something's not right, they jump right in there, and there's just nothing but business with them. I mean, they really protect their clientele.
Howard, did you set up a separate account for this income so that it wasn't doing your primary?
No, it just goes right into our general checking account. But
Howard,
we get a report every month on how much went in and the records of how it went in. Yes.
One of the things that we've discovered as we're trying to set up through the Tithe LY is we check with our bank, and they charge, and it's PNC, and so eventually we're going to do something about that. They charge us $15 per.
Wow.
So, we have to set it up where they do it once a month. Where the Tithe LY would just make a deposit to our bank once a month. So I'm just pointing that out so that people would check with their banks to see what they're going to charge for those trips.
Yeah.
Many banks don't charge anything.
Another whole territory of PNC.
Yeah, we don't get charged anything. So, I guess it depends from bank to bank. You would think they would want the money.
Yeah, that's what I said. But, I don't want, because we about found ourselves in a situation. It was going to cost us a bunch of money. So anyway, I just wanted people to double check with your banks. Don't get caught with your.
Thanks for sharing that, Ed, because our bank doesn't charge us anything. So I don't know exactly, what that is.
I don't mean to throw a wrench into the thing here, but there's a lady that I'm having some conversation with who's like an expert web builder. I wish I could afford her, but I can't. Anyhow, she alerted me when we were talking about websites that there is talk in the web building community that PayPal within the next year is going to liquidate. For some are saying for the purpose of coming back out under another name. I don't know how all that happens, but I agree. Most people have found their services, very business-like and reliable. But that may be something to consider down the road should they do that.
I would think even if they did, there would be another factor in place to take over if they were in that situation.
Yeah.
Let me turn this off. Any other questions on giving? I think, Brad, if you'll allow me just one final thing. Our services, we don't, as I said before, we don't do them live. I do when we're at church. Prior to this event, we've started recording things. We found it was a little easier, and plus I can do it from any situation or environment wherever I find myself, as long as I have a good camera. Now I have a good camera. In this office, I have a back screen. As you can see, it's just a black screen that I utilize. I have lighting in here. I have the umbrella lights. They're not very expensive. You can utilize those, but you ought to look at your lighting, because if you have a really light background behind you, it gets really, you get the halo effect, like you're Jesus. So you've got to be careful about those things. I use this program for some reason or another. Like you said, certain things just do not work well, but you can see I've got the actual elements here that I can utilize. I can change the screen. For some reason or another, my camera is stuck. Let me turn that off and then turn it back on. It's still not working. I've got another camera here I can turn on, but I don't want to do that. So nonetheless, anyway, you see how I'm able to put my it's not actually a PowerPoint. I convert my PowerPoint to JPEGs, and then I can actually just scroll through and I can do my message just that simple, just as I go through everything that's there. And this is a program that's called OBS Studio, which is right here. It's called Open Broadcaster Software. It's free. I'm cheap on some things. You get what you pay for. But the OBS Studio, if you're doing it from home or an office, and this will actually live stream for you if you have the ability to live stream. It'll live stream it to YouTube. It'll live stream it to Facebook. It'll live stream it to whatever live stream account you may have set up with someone. And I don't know, are any of the rest of you guys live streaming at all? Okay. When you're using a live stream company, you can actually, you pay for that service. And I just had one of those senior moments, and I know none of you have any of those senior moments.
Never.
But I just had one. But anyway, you can utilize different cameras, other things with the OBS, the Open Broadcaster software. You can bring different cameras in. Like at one point when I was experimenting with it, I had 3 different cameras in here, and I could switch between the scenes on the cameras right there. At church, for the big setting, we use a program called Wirecast. And of course, Wirecast, we have an ATEM, which allows us to separate the different cameras and different things if we want to do that. I don't think you want to go that route. Just that one box, the ATEM that does that, is $1,000. And the software is just astronomical. But when I discovered the Open Broadcaster software, I started using that from home. And I just put everything together right here. And it has been just a blessing and a joy to do that. And Greg, you're smiling, but your mouth isn't moving.
Is that what you use for your midweek Bible studies, Howard.
That's what I use for all of the Bible studies. And this is the program I use to put my videos together. Filmora 9. It's a free download. You can utilize it. It's just a real simple tool, easy to pull things into and put that together. But it's just called Filmora. And it puts everything into a simple program. I actually I'll just give you a little sample. This is something I put together with that. You see how I've got my countdown on there? I added a little bumper for Easter, a little thing that I got. You can get these little bumper things, through a ton of different companies that you can add in and put on there. And then, of course, after that, I had another thing where we put in there, and then I was able to put the songs on there and then move forward into the message. Let me pause that. But all of this stuff I actually did through the program Filmora 9. When I got to the end, one of the things that I did was I put what's called a bumper on it. You familiar with what a bumper is? Let me just start this again. At the bumper, I just said, did you receive Christ today? If you need more information, contact me. And I put that in there. All these are JPEG slides that I did on PowerPoint. And then I had in there the 3 ways to give: in person, by mail. We can't accept any in person right now, but we have by mail. And then also you can give online, and I have the information there. Hey, one of the things I wanted to tell you about Stripe, and I forgot, is they have text to give, which is a really cool program. So now I got to turn my music off wherever I have it. I don't know what I did with it. Okay, it went away. Good. All right.
One thing I will add is when you are making a video, what is the most important thing? The quality of the video, or the sound, or the lighting?
Sound.
That sound is key.
Sound is the most important thing. Right. People will tolerate, they won't watch it if they don't like what they're seeing, but they like to hear it well. And, I have a good microphone here that I utilize. It's a Marantz professional microphone that comes with my rig that I have, that I've got set up here. For those of you that asked about getting a camera, if you want to get a good camera, other than using I'll tell you what, the new iPhones have excellent cameras on them. I'm not as familiar with Android, but the iPhones have super cameras on them, especially the 11. They have wonderful cameras and they have decent sound. You can add different microphones, into the mix that are a part of that. Zoom makes a good microphone. That's not the Zoom that we're using, but is actually a product called the Zoom microphones. They're really good. If you want an all-in-all, it has good sound and good pictures, and you can transfer between different things actually using an iPad or an iPhone. There's something called a Movie. Yeah. M-O-V-E-E. It's less than $500. It is a truly professional camera. It does a great job, and you can stream directly from it to FaceTime and YouTube. You can also utilize it if you have a streaming service. You can send it right into a streaming service. Now, we don't use that, obviously, at the church because we have some cameras that are professional level that we utilize. I don't recommend going that route if you don't have to. We invested a lot of money. We probably have $10,000 in our broadcasting stuff that we have at the church. And as I look back, hindsight's always 20/20. We could have done more with less if I had known back then. Sometimes we learn things the hard way.
Yeah.
Any questions on that?
Kurt?
What about headsets and things, Howard? Are those helpful?
What do you mean?
Well, for the pickup of a better quality sound and such, would you recommend using a headset, or would you just recommend getting like that Marantz?
If you don't care what people see, then it doesn't make that much difference. I see Jacob's got on his headset and he's doing that. A lot of people that are doing podcasting, you'll see the microphone like you do with me now. And when I'm doing the messages, I don't mind having it there. It doesn't make any difference to me. I think people know that I'm doing something from a studio or from home, and they're able to utilize that. I don't think that makes that much difference in this crisis situation, but you do need to have good sound, good sound, and a lot less background noise. I will tell you something about Filmora 9. Filmora 9 actually has a filtering program on it that will take out background noise. If you did happen to record something outside or where there was a lot of ambient noise around you, it actually has a button that you push. It takes all of that out.
So if you're going to hook up a Marantz like you have there, and you're in Zoom, it's already using your built-in mic in your computer.
No, it's not. I told it to use this one.
Okay, that's
yeah. I told it to use this one.
Things you have to set up to.
Yeah, in Zoom, under that pop up or drop up menu, as Tim had said, you can choose if you have multiple microphones.
Hey guys, we're at 2 hours and almost 20 minutes, so we're gonna wrap it up. One thing I just wanted to encourage everyone to do is to make some short videos. John Worrall said he was going to make some short ones. Put your sermon into 1 minute or 2 minutes and see how many likes and so forth that would have. So there's a lot of different things. Someone might even start going to that more often than the longer sermon. Just make it funny. You can put in some bloopers, things like that. Things that people will watch. People like things that are funny. They're watching cats all the time on YouTube. So
yeah.
FaceTime
says in their demographic studies that if you're doing a video, they're more likely to be watched if they're 3 minutes.
That's right.
Around 3 to 3.5 minutes.
That's right.
If I may, there's a couple things I just want to throw in real quick.
Yeah.
On the giving, there's a lot of different giving platforms. Different giving platforms will actually have different percentage rates and costs per transaction, depending on whether it's credit, debit, or ACH transactions. For example, we use eGive USA, which their transaction cost is less than half of what a debit card is. I think it's actually even more than that. It's only 0.75% of the transaction. And then currently, I think it's like around 30 cents on top of that per transaction, but that's much less than the 3.5%. So I know one of the things we did for stewardship reasons is we enabled it where it's only ACH transactions and stuff like that. So different giving platforms will allow that to do that. On the live streaming, the OBS software is really great. I use that as well. One great tool I found that if you want to simplify your live stream, if you're doing that to multiple platforms all at once with simple management, is actually set up OBS to stream to what's called restream.io.
Yes.
And from there, you can redirect it to multiple platforms. Now, there's some things where, like, if you want to send it to a organization page, like a page or something like that, that's an additional cost for that. But you can send it to, like, on Facebook, that is. But if you send it to a personal Facebook page, that's free. But you can send it to different platforms, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, stuff like that. And it's really beneficial. The other thing was, one thing I found, if you do want to do like a camera running into some kind of a box that converts it to be recognized by a computer for live streaming. One thing I came across was called a Blackmagic ATEM Mini. They're $295, but they'll allow you to have multiple inputs going in. They have it where they can do a picture-in-picture. You can control how big the picture-in-picture is. It'll do your transition fades and all that, and convert it for you and do seamless transitions between different inputs and stuff, if that's the kind of setup you use. And I discovered that I was on the right track of looking that up, because it's currently about a month back order with a manufacturing company because everybody bought them up. So
yeah, when this started, yeah, you're right, Jacob. We use Blackmagic equipment at the church a lot, and they actually have mini converters that are $59 if you have a single camera that you want to use and plug it into your computer, and they work really well.
Yeah, right now there is a tech famine. Just like you said, everything is sold out.
You get that at like sonsofskiva.com or something like that? At Blackmagic?
Yeah, we're also running short on toilet paper. There's a run on that.